A typical day for members of a Marine Medium Helicopter Squadron in Vietnam usually starts quietly, but rarely continues that way. This UH-34, with pilot, co-pilot, crew chief, and gunner aboard, is on medevac assignment, and the missions will include mercy flights for injured Vietnamese civilians, as well as wounded American and Vietnamese fighting men. On the first call, a Vietnamese soldier wounded in recent fighting is unloaded from an ambulance jeep and placed aboard the chopper. This man had been hospitalized at a civilian hospital. Much of the nursing had been done by his wife. She will accompany him aboard the helicopter, which will now take him for more advanced treatment to a U.S. military medical facility. In the air, the crew chief keeps constantly alert to advise the pilot of any ground fire he may see or of any other conditions below them which the pilot might need to know. When there are passengers, he must place them in positions which help maintain the balance of the ship and give them a warning signal when it's time to land. As the chopper approaches the landing zone, the crew chief has to be alert for incoming fire and be ready to shoot back. The next stop is accomplished after the crew chief makes a careful and detailed security check of the landing zone. Vietnamese soldiers are loaded aboard, one a stretcher case, another carried piggyback to the landing zone, is helped into the waiting UH-34. As the chopper heads for the hospital, the crew chief keeps a careful check on the condition of his passengers, ready to apply emergency first aid if necessary. At the landing pad near the Vietnamese hospital, the stretcher is placed in still another type of military ambulance. This one, a personnel carrier rigged as an ambulance. It will carry more patients than the Jeep ambulance, and although neither vehicle is designed for long hauls, for quick movement of patient from landing pad to hospital, they fulfill the function. Leaving the hospital landing pad, the next mission is a more familiar one. The landing zone is hot and the chopper can't stay long on the ground. Combat wounded are carried to the helicopter. As the chopper leaves the zone, the crew chief will prepare to return any enemy ground fire with his M60 machine gun mounted in the open door. Shortly after liftoff, this crew chief finds himself faced with tragedy. While trying to keep a critically injured man alive, another begins bleeding profusely from the mouth. The helicopter crewman takes emergency measures to clear the blood to prevent the man choking. His treatment was successful. The man is still alive. The next stop is another mercy mission for the Vietnamese, this time involving women and children. Again, the crew chief has his work cut out for him. In addition to responsibility for the security of the craft while it's in a landing zone, he finds he must also calm frightened Vietnamese passengers. Sometimes he must feed a crying child, or on occasion, even assist at childbirth. This baby is too weak to eat or cry. Malnutrition is the problem, and hospital care is vital if this child is to live. Another battle casualty is taken aboard, and again the helicopter gunner has to take emergency measures. Mouth-to-mouth resuscitation, along with cardiac massage, will keep this wounded man alive during the flight to the hospital. At the next stop, a small Vietnamese boy with a broken leg must be taken to a U.S. medical facility for orthopedic work. The Marine gunner tenderly carries his small charge from the Jeep ambulance to the helicopter. The youngster's father comes along, and once aboard, he takes the child in his arms to comfort him in the unfamiliar surroundings inside the UH-34. Vietnamese patients are unloaded on the hospital pad and the needed medical treatment will soon be forthcoming. These mercy missions are not so exciting as going into hot landing zones after battle casualties, but they are very satisfying for the Marines involved. They know they must win the trust and confidence of the Vietnamese people if they are going to defeat the Viet Cong with their hate America and Americans propaganda. The last mission of the day for these UH-34 crewmen involves still another function of Marine Medium Helicopters. These Marines are being returned to duty, and the simple transfer of a Marine from one place to another is often accomplished swiftly by helicopter. On final return to their base, the aircraft must be readied for new missions. They come day and night in Vietnam. The number of sorties flown by Marine helicopters is already in the tens of thousands. Countless lives, both Vietnamese and American, have been saved by quick, efficient medevac. Marine crews from 18-year-old PFCs through seasoned master sergeants and commissioned officers know the medevac missions are integral elements of the combat action and civic action vital to the successful termination of this conflict.